So today I'm going to be taking you through one of my favorite intensity techniques that I like to use with a lot of my physique athletes and clients looking to build muscle. So whether it be for competition, for the bodybuilding, physique figure stage, or whether it be for on the beach or a photo shoot to look great naked. So we're going to be going into mechanical drop sets, and by the end of today's video, what you're going to know are what mechanical drop sets are, kind of some of the basic science and theory, but we're not going to go too deep into that rabbit hole of the muscle hypertrophy science because I want to make this more of a practical video. So I'm going to be going over some of my favorite exercises and ways you can use them in the real world with yourself or with any of your clients that are looking to build extra muscle. So come follow along and I will take you through. If you're not familiar with intensity techniques, they include things like regular drop sets, they can be rest pauses, cluster sets, extended eights. There are so many different types of intensity techniques that you might be able to utilize. We know that the basic lifts progressed over time work really well, but they can only work for so long, especially if you're more of an advanced athlete or client. And that's where intensity techniques come in. Obviously, we have to monitor things, we have to monitor kind of adaptations to our clients as well and see if things are working. But if things have stopped working, then intensity techniques are something you can throw in for, even if it's just a set or two during your workouts to kind of take things to the next level. A lot of them rely on basically taking yourself beyond failure. So a good example of that will be in just your basic drop set. I'm just going to demo that with a triceps push down because it's really easy just to get my point across. Now, with a standard drop set, I might do my regular set of push downs, okay? Once I've reached close to failure, I might take that pin out, go a little bit lighter, and then continue to go to failure. Okay, obviously that was a poor demonstration. I might normally put a little bit more intensity into those push downs than what I just showed you right there. But you get the point, okay? You start with a heavier weight, you drop the weight down to continue or to extend your set, and that's your standard drop set. The downside to your standard drop set is that what we're doing is we're starting off with a weight that might be, say, our 12 RM, okay? We might be doing 10, 11 reps, 12 reps, something like that with it. And then we're dropping the weight down. Now, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of muscle hypertrophy science, but we know that essentially if you lift more weight, then you're going to build more muscle, you're going to create more tension, you're going to build more muscle. The downside to a regular drop set is that we are dropping the weight and going lighter in weights. Whereas with a mechanical drop set, we actually maintain the weight and change the mechanics, change leverage factors within the exercise to extend the set. So we're able to use the same amount of weight, that greater amount of weight, through our extended set when we use a mechanical drop set versus a traditional drop set. There's still a place for a traditional drop set. I'm a big fan of creating some metabolic stress through using maybe slightly lighter weights during the back end of the workout. But generally speaking, a mechanical drop set, we will be able to create a lot more mechanical tension during that set than we would do in a traditional drop set. So now I'm going to take you through some of my favorite mechanical drop sets. And we're going to start with the chest because I think for most of you, it's going to be what you're going to want to learn about to start off with. A mechanical drop set is where we start with an exercise. So we're going to start here with a dumbbell fly for chest, just to start off with. And then as we reach close to failure, we change to a mechanically more advantageous position, okay? So I'm going to take you through this first one just to kind of give you an idea about what I mean. And then as we go along, you're going to kind of get a better understanding of what I mean by changing leverage factors and getting into a more of a mechanically advantaged position. So, incline dumbbell fly, what we'll do, we'll start off with, and by the way, just ignore the weight that I'm using, we're just using this for demo purposes. We're just going to start off with our standard set of incline dumbbell flies, say, okay? So this is a really great one for chest. We might start out with maybe 8 to 10 reps, okay? Once we've reached 8 to 10 reps, we're going to go to a slightly more mechanically advantageous position. With this one, I like to go into an eccentric only fly into a press. So as you can see, I've switched from my hardest exercise, the one I'm using the least weight with, to one where I might be able to handle just a little bit more weight with. Once I reach close to failure with that eccentric variation, so I've gone eccentric fly, concentric press, then I might switch to a press, okay? And again, I'll take that one to failure. By the time you get there, you're probably only going to be able to get to maybe 6 reps max. So we might start out with maybe 8 to 10 reps on that incline fly. We might maybe be able to get maybe 6 reps, something like that, of an eccentric. And then we switch to our incline press where we might be able to get maybe another 6 more. That's if you've chosen the weight correctly to start off with. So that one's a really good example of changing leverage factors and kind of the type of exercise that you're performing to allow you to just wean out a few extra reps. Whereas if I'd have just done the incline fly, I might have just got the 8 to 10 reps. I've instead taken it through beyond that failure and ended up getting maybe, closer to 20 reps, something like that. Okay, so that's our first exercise. I'm going to take you into another chest exercise, and then as we go along, I'm going to be taking you through some back exercises for back width, back thickness, some lower body exercises for more quads focus, more hamstrings focus, and even some arms at the end. So make sure you follow along, and I'll give you plenty of ideas to take away with you. One thing I should probably note is that you don't necessarily need to go straight from one exercise to the next to the next. You can take maybe a 10 to maximum 30-second break in between exercises if there's maybe a slight transition between those exercises. We're also able to obviously replenish ATP stores just slightly if we're taking, even as small as maybe a 20-second break in between transitioning those exercises. However, I tend to program things as though they are straight from one movement to the next to the next. I just feel as though you get a little bit more out of them. I'm going to take you through another variation I like for chest. This one I would normally recommend you do this with a partner. I'm going to do it by myself today, but if you have a partner available, this is a lot quicker, it's a lot smoother. So we're going to start off with something like maybe a 45-degree incline bench, and we're going to do simply an incline press, all right? So again, let's say we've said to go for 8 reps, okay? So once we've done our 8 reps of our incline press, and this is why I say it's better to have a partner, because your partner can do this. You're then going to take that 45-degree bench down to about a 30-degree bench, okay? So you whip those back up again, and you'll continue your set. Once you've done as many reps as you can, again, pop that down. You'll take that bench to maybe a 15-degree incline or so, and then you'll continue your set. So if you've got a partner, obviously they can just do the whole thing for you, and you can just simply sit up as they're doing it, and it will just go a lot smoother. Alternatively, you can obviously do it by yourself. There's just obviously that slightly more of a hassle factor, having to stand up and change things. Obviously the weight I'm using today is just for demo purposes, so kind of ignore that and the speed that I'm doing reps. I'm just kind of going over things briefly for you. Generally speaking, the weight that you're going to be using will be no different than the weight you would be using just for your standard set. So let's say you've got incline dumbbell presses programmed for you. You're doing sets of 8 with a 10 RM. That's the exact same weight that you're going to want to be using for your mechanical drop sets. So you'll still do that, but we're extending the set by changing leverage factors. In this movement, we're changing leverage factors by obviously starting off on that higher incline, that 45-degree. We're using smaller muscle groups. We're using a little bit more of our upper, kind of our clavicular pecs. We're using more of our delts, which are obviously a smaller muscle group. And then we're making things easier or putting ourselves in a stronger position by taking that bench down just a little bit, which enables us to get an extra few reps. So that you've got 2 movements there for chest that you control, 2 mechanical drop sets you've got that you can try for chest. Let's go on to some back. So we're going to go into an exercise for back width next. And what I mean by back width is primarily lats, but it's probably not accurate to say we're just working lats here. So we'll just say in general, we're working back width into more of a vertical pulling pattern. What we're going to do is some wide grip pull-ups. As you know, wide grip is a harder pull-up variation, or it's the position where we're probably most weak in. And then we're going to transition into an underhand grip, which tends to be stronger in a lot of people. I don't mind if you then transitioned into a neutral grip instead of underhand, if you prefer it. I like underhand though. And then we're going to finish off with an eccentric only chin up, again using that underhand grip. So we're going from the hardest exercise, or the exercise where you're probably going to be lifting the least in or doing the least amount of reps in, to an exercise where you've got a little bit more of a mechanically advantageous position, or you're slightly stronger in that exercise, into an eccentric only version of that exercise. Obviously you can load this as much as you want to. I'm just going to be demonstrating with bodyweight alone, but if you want to put a dipping belt on, it's all relative to you. As I said, use the exact same level of loading as you would your standard set. So if I was going for, say, an 8 RM with wide grip pull-ups and maybe just doing 6 to 7 reps with that, then I'm going to be loading as though I'm going for an 8 RM with that. And then the rest of the exercise is how many reps you're actually getting with that. Doesn't really matter too much as long as you're going to failure. All right. So I will just demo. I'm not going to speak during this one because it's a pretty hard one to speak during. Okay. So we're going to start with our overhand grip. So we might have done, say, I don't know, 6 reps with this one. Okay. So once we've done 6 reps with that one, we're going to change our grip to an underhand grip. All right. So into our underhand grip with our chin ups. 4-range of motion, nice big stretch while that's at the bottom. Once we've done as many reps as we can to failure, we'll then go into our eccentric only. All right, so really short transition between these. Eccentric only, obviously I'm stood on a box, slight little jump to get the height. We lower all the way down, full stretch, step, stand, little jump. So I'm only overloading on the way down. And that will allow us to extend that set and just get a few more reps than we would have otherwise done if we just started with overhand, or we then switched to underhand. Okay, so we've extended that set even further. That's a really powerful one. That one, you can't really do too many sets of that one. You can alternatively use a lat pull down if you're not at the level where you can do something like that. With a lat pull down, you can go with a wide grip to an underhand grip, and then do what I'd call a cheat eccentric. So you can use your underhand grip, cheat on the way down, kind of the rock style, cheat on the way down, and then control all the way up on that one as well. So you've got a couple of options with that one as well. Let's move on to some stuff for back thickness next. Next exercise, and this is one of my favorites. We're gonna be doing a bent over row. So to start off with this bent over row, we're gonna be using a wide grip. We're then going to be going to a slightly narrower grip, and then we're going to be switching to an underhand grip. So this is what it looks like. So again, imagine, let's say we've chose a 10 RM with this one. We're going to be hitting about 8 reps. So just hinging those hips, nice flat back position, no body English on this one either. And we're going to be going with a wider grip than what we'd normally set with, okay? So that slightly wider grip is a harder position to be in. So imagine I've now done my 8 reps, okay? I might set that back, okay? Or I might just switch that grip kind of in action, but I like to set it back. Choose my standard grip, my strongest grip, find the same position, and I'm continuing my set. So I now might only be able to get 4 or 5 reps with that one. And now we switch to our underhand grip, which is a stronger position. And we might maybe get about another 3 or 4 reps with this one if we've selected that right weight to start off with, okay? So that's a really good one for back thickness. And by back thickness, we're really talking about kind of those middle traps, but we're obviously working our lats, our rhomboids as well with that one as well. So wide grip, strongest grip somewhere kind of in the middle, and then to an underhand grip. Let's move on to another exercise now. Moving on to some mechanical drop sets for your shoulders. If you're looking to balloon up your shoulders, this is a really good one and probably one of my favorites. So we're going to start out with a single arm shoulder press. This is a really great option, especially if you have kind of left-right asymmetries, working one side at a time, okay? But we're gonna start out with kind of an adapted version of an Arnold press. Adapted meaning basically for me, we're not coming all the way forwards. I don't think we need to come all the way forwards to get the most out of an Arnold press. We're kind of just gonna come to here, all right? So Arnold press, standing, I mean, there's just a staggered stance here, cores engaged, glutes are on, okay? And I'm just gonna press up into that position there. So I'm not coming all the way down to the front, I'm kind of coming to a semi-supinated grip and then palms facing away into that pronated grip at the top. So again, I might have selected a load that might be maybe my 10 RM, okay? I hit 8 reps with that one. I'm then gonna switch to a slightly stronger grip, which will be my standard overhand grip, and continue my set. If I've selected the right weight, I might only get 4 or 5 with that one. Once I reach failure with that one, I'm gonna go into a push press, okay? So I'm gonna take my feet to more of a level stance. I'm gonna dip my hips, use my hips to drive that weight up, and then control that load on the way down, okay? So it's essentially an eccentric shoulder press by then going into that push press. And again, we might only get maybe 4 or 5 reps with that one. That eccentric and that drive up really helps with that one as well, just to get an extra few reps with it, okay? So I've started out with my modified Arnold press. I've gone to my standard single arm shoulder press, and then I've gone to my single arm push press. Really powerful one, guys. Let's move on to another variation for your shoulders that I think you'll enjoy as well. If standing positions don't do well with you, i.e. for example, you have trouble kind of holding that good back position, you get a little bit too much lumbar extension with it, and your back starts hurting, or even you don't like going fully overhead. People with shoulder issues, you know, that I work with don't like that fully overhead position. They need to kind of keep things more at this angle here. Seated, or this seated version that I'm going to show you now, is a good option for you if you want to give mechanical drop sets a go. So again, we're going to start out with that Arnold press to start off with, or that modified Arnold press. We're then going to go into our standard seated dumbbell shoulder press, and then we're going to just go into partial repetitions with that seated shoulder press. So this is what it looks like. Again, select the load based on your goals, okay? There's no rules with this one. You can start out with 8 reps, 10 reps, 6 reps, whatever you want to. Change those reps according to your goals and the phase of your training, all right? So seated modified Arnold press. So again, let's say we've hit 8 reps with that one. Let's just pretend. And then we change to our strongest grip with a shoulder press. And then once we've reached failure with that one, I'm just gonna work that top point, okay? Hardest point in the shoulder press tends to be around about here, all right? That's relatively easy. That lockout's relatively easy, okay? So we're just gonna work just slightly above that sticking point and stay there, okay? So again, just a reminder, we've started out with that Arnold press, or that modified Arnold press, into a standard dumbbell shoulder press, into a partial shoulder press. And that is just one set, and obviously you're going to failure with that. I'm just going to briefly mention, or just talk about only without demonstrating, another one of my favorite variations, or one of my favorite mechanical drop sets for shoulders. If you're good with a barbell overhead, not everyone's great with a barbell overhead, but if you are, it's a good option. So you can start out with a standard strict military press, so pressing directly overhead, no help from your knees or hips. You can then transition that into a push press. Now, obviously I've shown you a push press before. It's where we dip our hips, use that momentum and drive that bar overhead. So you started out with your strict military press, you then go into a push press. Then you can, if you're more of an advanced level, you can then go into a push jerk. So we know from Olympic lifting that a push jerk is a way for you to drop under that bar pretty quickly, and it allows you to be able to lift more load. So again, just an idea of a mechanical drop set that you might want to use in your own training, or if you find any use within your own clients as well. It's a good one, give it a try if you think it's going to work for you. Moving on to some mechanical drop sets for legs, and this one's really good for glutes and hamstrings. We're going to start out with a stiff legged deadlift. Now, a stiff leg deadlift is just simply a high hipped deadlift off the floor, and that allows the bar to come further forwards. We get a little bit more emphasis on glutes and hamstrings, arguably, and we're not able to use quite as much load as what we would do with Romanian deadlifts, which start at the top. This can work with Romanian deadlifts if you prefer Romanian deadlifts as well. So we're going to start with stiff leg deadlifts. We're then going to do some eccentric only stiff leg deadlifts. Now, an eccentric only stiff leg deadlift is where we do a stiff leg deadlift on the way down, and then to get the bar back up, we're going to use a conventional deadlift. And a conventional deadlift is obviously a position where we're at more of a mechanical advantage, and that's our final movement of the 3 that we go into. So we go from a stiff leg to an eccentric stiff leg to a conventional, all without stopping, or with maybe a 10 to 30 second break in between, depending on what you prefer. So here's what it looks like. So stiff leg deadlift, hips are nice and high. And what I'm looking at when I look down is that that bar is over my bottom laces, all right? So chest is over the bar. I'm engaging my lats, okay? Just kind of corkscrewing my elbows in, all the way to the top, allowing that bar to come slightly forwards, all the way to the floor, and then repeat. So imagine I've done maybe, again, let's keep talking about 8 reps. I've done my 8 reps of my stiff leg deadlifts. I then drop into a conventional deadlift to get up, stiff legged on the way down, nice and controlled, drop into my conventional and repeat. So again, I might get close to failure with these. Once I've hit failure, I'm just going to finish with my conventional deadlifts off the floor. Now, because these are deadlifts, I tend to not go to full, complete failure with them. You might leave maybe 1 or 2 reps in the tank at the end of each kind of component, just to kind of keep that back in a nice position. So really, we're not looking at going anywhere near technical failure. Make sure you have obviously full engagement of everything throughout, and make sure that form stays clean with these. But if you find a use for them in your own training, they suit you, they suit your body structure. They personally don't suit me very well. Conventional deadlift, I tend to go like a few inches off some blocks if I am deadlifting. But if they suit you really well, then give this one a shot. It will absolutely stick it to your glutes and hamstrings. One thing I'm going to make note of, which I haven't really covered yet, are how many exercises should you use for your mechanical drop set. Now, sometimes I'll use as little as 2. So for example, I might do something, or I might program something like a triceps push down to a straight arm lat pull down. And by the way, a straight arm lat pull down does still work your triceps. It especially works kind of that long head of your triceps because of that function that we're doing it with there. Obviously, we're working our lats as well. But that's a good mechanical drop set, or mechanical advantage drop set for triceps, and we're only using 2 exercises there. I typically, though, would program 3 exercises. I just think it's a kind of a nice point to hit 3. But sometimes you can do 4 if you want to. I do know that, who I originally learned some of this stuff off was, I think I might have read an old T-Nation article maybe from 10, 15 years ago. Might have been by Christian Thibodeau, and I think he was recommending up to 4 exercises. I don't tend to recommend doing 4 exercises. I think the pool of exercises that you can choose from if you are using 4 is quite limited. So I do tend to say 3 as a starting point, but equally 4 can be just as effective as maybe 2 as well. If you are particularly sadistic, then this one's for you. We're going to be primarily doing this one for quads, but obviously with any squat, which is what we're going to be going into next, you are obviously hitting glutes as well, a little bit of hamstrings obviously in there as well. So I'm going to start out with a barbell front squat, which is typically a weaker barbell squat. We're then going to go into a high bar back squat, obviously setting the weight back in between. And then we're going to transition into a low bar back squat, which is typically a stronger position for most. Obviously, some can't get into that low bar position, but the same with every exercise ever, it's up to you to decide whether the exercise is a good fit for you, okay? So I'm going to be demoing this way around in the rack. So don't call the gym police on me. I know this is unconventional, but obviously I'm just doing this for demo purposes, just so you get a good idea, and it just kind of gets the point across a little bit more. Okay, so barbell front squat to start off with. I don't mind whether you kind of use that California style grip. You can even use like a zombie grip if you want to, or you can kind of use that front rack position if you want to. So in that position, and by the way, you're not front squatting right unless it's choking you out. So let's say we start off with, okay, 6 reps, let's say, of that nice deep front squat. Okay, so imagine we've done our 6 reps. We'll set that bar back. I'm then gonna set it to a high bar position, okay? So that high bar means our torso is a little bit more vertical. Arguably, we're a little bit more quads dominant with that one as well. Make sure obviously we're hitting depth with that one. Once we've done our reps, obviously not too failure with that one because you won't be able to get back up. Then we reset again to a low bar position. Now, as you know, with a low bar, that bar's set a lot lower and the angle of your torso is going to be a lot more forwards. We're getting a little bit more hamstrings and low back in that one, but it's a stronger position. So I'm just going to start chin down, step away. I might go a little bit wider with my stance as well. And all I'm going to do is just allow that bar to sit in that position. Sit my hips back as deep as I can, thighs break parallel and return to the top. With a low bar position, I'm never going to come to there because I'll probably lose a heavy bar, okay? And obviously with that one, I finish and then go maybe just 1 or 2 shy failure. And that will be 1 set. So we go front squat to high bar back squat to low bar back squat. It might look something like 6 to 8 reps, 3 to 5 reps, and maybe just 2 or 3 reps with that low bar back squat at the end, okay? But as I said, hit close to failure, but not total failure when it comes to a squat. Keep that form tight throughout. If squats aren't your thing, then give these leg presses a go. We're gonna start out with a position where we're weakest in or at more of a mechanical disadvantage. We're gonna start out with it's called a Peterson leg press. Now I learned these ones off of the late coach Charles Poliquin, who was a big fan of these, especially for working kind of that VMO muscle there. But basically we're gonna have a really low stance and allow our heels to come up. For some people, this can really, especially if you've got weak calves, they can really be the limiting factor, okay? So I probably wouldn't recommend this for someone who does have slightly weaker calves, if they're feeling it more in that area. But for a lot of people, this can be a really good position to really focus on those quads just by keeping those heels up, okay? So Peterson leg press, heels stay up, get a nice deep range of motion all the way down, okay? And then return all the way to the top, okay? So here to here. Between sets, we're gonna lock it off. We're then gonna switch to a more quadriceps focused stance. So that tends to be the stance where essentially your knees can go through their greatest active range of motion. So for me, this is probably somewhere around here. For you, it might be a little bit lower. For others, it might be a bit here. It might be a bit wider, okay, whatever. You adjust that stance. So knees through greatest range of motion. So again, we get a nice full range of motion with that one. Never locking our knees fully at the top. Now when we hit close to failure on that one, once we've hit close to failure on that one, we're gonna go to a more glutes and hamstrings focused leg press. Obviously, we're still working our quads, but we're shifting or biasing a little bit more towards glutes and hamstrings just by simply taking a slightly higher, wider, and slightly higher stance. So press that away. And that's almost the equivalent of like our low bar back squat, right? Okay, very kind of similar position mechanically. Flip ourselves up the other way, and it's gonna look very similar, okay? So here to here, it's also a more partial range of motion. I can't get as deep with this one. And we might finish out with maybe 4 reps tops, okay, of that one, depending on your starting point and depending on the weight, okay? So just a reminder, Peterson leg press to a quadriceps focused leg press to a high and wide stance leg press. Really, really great one for your quads. Again, you adjust the sets, the reps, the load that you're using according to your goals. You might just be doing 1 set of these, you might want to be doing 4 sets of these. That depends on you. We're not going to be going into kind of the science of why you might do such things today. We're just going into mechanical drop sets themselves and practical applications of those exercises themselves, okay? If you've got this far in the video, then well done. We've got 3 more mechanical drop sets I really want to show you. And these are for kind of those small body parts, those body parts that make a real difference for aesthetics. We've got biceps, we've got triceps, and we've got abs to go over. So this one is for biceps. I'll take you through this one really, really quickly, very, very simple. So I'm just going to do this seated. You can also do this standing if you want to. So I'm going to start with a Zottman bicep curl. So that is when we lift up with a palms up grip, a supinated grip. We turn to a pronated grip and then control all the way down, okay? So we supinate on the way up, underhand grip, turn, overhand grip, okay? And especially that overhand grip, it's a really weak position to be in. So the weight that we use with this mechanical drop set is going to be limited by the weight that we can handle during this exercise. Then next up, slightly easier, we're just going to go to an underhand curl, okay? And obviously you can change this, you can vary the incline of your bench, whatever, okay? We're going to go to a standard underhand grip curl. Finally, you're going to finish out with your strongest grip, which will be your neutral, your hammer grip, okay? And that will just allow you just to get a few extra reps in at the end of those 3 exercises of that mechanical drop set, okay? As I keep saying, the amount of reps you do based on you and the load that you use, the load that you prescribe for yourself. I would tend to say with isolation exercises like this, we want to be hitting that slightly higher rep range. So maybe 10, 12, 15 reps on that first one. It might then drop down in that second exercise, that standard underhand grip exercise, to maybe doing an extra 7 reps, maybe something like that. And then we finish out with those hammer grip curls, and we might be getting 5 or 6 extra towards the end. Either way, we've extended our set, but we've chosen the weight based on the first part or the first exercise we've used with that. Never ever compromise on the load they're using in that first exercise, okay? Triceps. This one's called Triceps Death, and it's probably one of my favorites of all time. I think it was popularized by kind of that West Side barbell kind of group, but I've seen others use it as well. Typically what you would do with Triceps Death is you would use like a board press. So you would use a narrow grip bench press and then maybe a 1-inch or 2-inch board on your chest and pressing to that. And then someone would throw in maybe a 3-inch, 4-inch, whatever size, you know, a thicker board onto your chest, and you would continue. So you're kind of going full range, narrow grip press, to slightly shortened range, and then to an even shorter range. Now, I'm not endorsed by these guys, but I think this is absolutely excellent. Bench blocks. If you do not have a partner to throw a board or block on your chest, then this is a really good option for this. And I'll show you how to use this in a second. All right, so Triceps Death, which technically is a mechanical drop set. So imagine we have started our set and we've selected our load based on our narrow grip bench press. So really tucking our elbows, triceps focus here, allowing that bar to kind of come nice and low towards that sternum and all the way up to the top. So really tuck, drive up, focuses on triceps, okay? So once we've finished that, we can then use our bench block, okay? Now, again, I'm not endorsed by these guys. You can adjust how much kind of you want, the thickness of this. So we're going to use the lowest amount of thickness, and all we do is we just push it there and it stays on the bar, okay? And then we continue our set. So all we're doing here is just reducing that range of motion slightly versus the standard full range of motion narrow grip bench press, okay? And then we'll set that bar back to finish our Triceps Death, again, because we can select the range of motion we want. Okay, we might go to here maybe. Make sure obviously it's central on the bar. And we continue our set. And as you will notice, we're doing even less range of motion, okay? Obviously, that's not as deathly as the original Triceps Death, where basically you just don't stop, right? You've selected your neutral grip load, you start with that, you start your set, someone throws on one board, you keep going, someone throws on a thicker board, you keep on going. Obviously that's a more deathly set than what we're doing here because you have to rest to change things around. But if you're training by yourself, it's an amazing option. As I said, not endorsed by Bench Blocks, but they are highly worth it for board pressing, and especially if you want to do like a mechanical drop set like this. Give Triceps a go. Okay, last muscle group that we're going to be hitting with a mechanical drop set is going to be abs. Now, I couldn't do this without covering an abs exercise because I literally wrote the book on abdominal training. Shameless plug there, by the way. Ultimate Abs book, published by Human Kinetics, by myself. Check it out if you want to see more great exercises. So we're going to do a mechanical drop set for abs. So all I've got here is I've set up my bench to around about a 30-degree incline, and my cable is set to about a height that just allows me to get over the top of that bench. And I'm going to just grab a seat. You will not need a lot of weight with this one. So I call this one a long lever incline crunch. Okay, long lever meaning I'm going to keep that cable as far overhead as I can, and a crunch is just simply pulling my rib cage down towards my pelvis, focusing on spinal flexion, okay? We do want flexion, it will not break your back, okay? So rib cage down to pelvis, really short range of motion there as much as I can, exhale fully at the top, but keeping my arms nice and long, okay? So that's my hardest position. I'm then gonna switch to an eccentric crunch. Now for the eccentric crunch, on the way down, I'm going to keep it long. On the way up, I'm going to keep it short. So press, long, in, short. Again, so I'm changing the leverage to make it just a little bit easier. Once I've reached close to failure, I'm going to keep it in that short position and just finish out with nice full range of motion crunches there. Stretching my abs as much as I can, really flaring my ribs as much as I can, and then pulling my rib cage down towards my pelvis to finish off. And again, your reps depend on you, depend on your goals, depend on the continuation of the set and how many reps you get throughout the set, depends on how many initial reps you are aiming for. Your abs, they're like every other muscle, they respond the exact same way. So, you know, your load is going to be selected based on what you already know about hypertrophy, all right? So you might be maybe aiming for that 10 to 15 rep range if you want to. I would tend to not suggest for abdominals you hit in that really low rep range. I just don't find there's much of a benefit there, and you kind of lose a little bit of attention, a little bit of focus on that area and switch to other muscle groups to help. So I would tend to say stick within that 10 to 15 range, maybe the odd foray up to kind of that 20 rep, those 20 rep sets where you get hitting a little bit more of that metabolic stress kind of level. But generally speaking, we want to maximize mechanical tension in our abdominals, and that's no different to training any other muscle group. So that's the key take home today, is that we're able to use the same weight whilst extending the set, okay? So hopefully you've enjoyed everything that I've covered today. If you want to learn more about me, head to thefitnessmaverick.com. It's got a bunch of articles, a lot of information about me and what I do. Apart from that, really, I just want you to be utilizing this stuff in your own training. Experiment with yourself. You don't have to be doing exactly what I'm doing here. Play about with slight tweaks on exercises and really broaden the exercises that are using right now with your clients. So you can find the ones that fit best for them. So then over time, you can really narrow down on the exercises that are truly working. Mechanical drop sets are a really good one to throw in just from a psychological standpoint, because it gives your clients that perception that they're working hard, as well as actually being a great technique that actually builds muscle, because obviously the mechanical tension that we're creating for longer duration sets.